Oh man, I've got a wild story to tell you about my first AAA game job interview. So in 2008, I make the 2-hour drive all the way over to Champaign, Illinois. I find myself in the elevator of the Volition building, nervous for this potentially life-changing interview. As the doors start to close, they suddenly open again. And in walks this guy who looks like he just stepped straight out of a concert. Like a total stereotype of the coolest person you've ever met. He glances over at me and he says in this gruff voice, "Hey, you're the new guy we're interviewing." And the elevator just reeks of marijuana. And that was the moment I realized I was way overdressed for this interview. "Yes," I managed to respond. "Good, because I'll be interviewing you later in the day." Right then and there, I knew I could just cut loose with this guy. He just gave off these vibes that I could say whatever the hell I wanted. But what I would say later to him would jeopardize my chances of ever entering the game industry. My journey into game development started in 2008. The first iPhone had just launched, and the great financial crisis is unwinding entire industries. But this little company in Champaign, Illinois is hiring a video editor, and I had spent 8 years already obsessing over producing video. I had been obsessed with it since I picked up my first Hi8 camcorder as a teenager. By the time I was in high school, I was winning state awards for video contests. Do high school video contests even exist anymore? Like, you just put stuff on YouTube and make money now. Before I even graduated high school, I actually started a production company called TAV Productions, which stood for Tony Alex Video. Tony was one of the guys in high school that I did all my video production work with. But I had dreams of working in Hollywood because that's where all the best productions happen. But by the time I finished college, I was extremely disappointed because I had college friends who left to go out west to go to Hollywood. And the mentality of the Hollywood upstart meant that people were just screwing each other over in attempts to get better jobs. That was not me. So 2008, work is drying up in Indiana where I lived, so I started looking for full-time jobs. I applied to Volition Inc., not even knowing what the company was. And in the phone interview, I had to even ask, like, what do you do? What? Huh? You make video games? I can't even believe they called me back after that. By the way, if you don't know, it is really, really stupid to tell an employer that you don't know what they do. Please spend a couple minutes, do your research before you jump in on the telephone, okay? But here I am, exiting the elevator and finally becoming fully aware of the situation I was walking into. This wasn't just some small-time job interview. There were huge signs for Punisher, Saints Row. This company had a legacy that had built mini games. On another wall, I saw Descent 1 and 2 releases. Oh my God, they had built Descent? Seeing this game alone just got me so pumped up. This was one of my childhood favorite games that I played the hell out of. And I just realized that I'm walking into the place that makes it. So I'm starting to think, I need to nail this interview. I wanted to ask questions about how all those older games were made, but this was strictly business. They were talking about the new games. This was Saints Row 2, this was Red Faction Guerrilla. That's what they were working on at the time. So during my interview, I projected as much confidence as I could, even though, I saw all that stuff in the front office was really making me kind of intimidated. Every person I spoke with was playing on a level beyond what I was doing. Programmers, artists, art directors. I mean, that interview was all a blur because I was in there for at least 6 hours meeting as many people as I could. And the funny thing is that it's really been too long to remember who I directly interviewed with. But I do remember some of the questions they asked me that had me questioning my own life choices. When you're a video editor, you want to put up your best work in front of people so that you can get a quick preview of the range and the quality of your work. I remember showing my demo reel, and at the time, I remember being embarrassed about some of the video. I knew it could just be way better, but I didn't have some of the opportunities to work with better cameras, better talent, better material, but all that didn't really seem to matter. My reel impressed the people that were there. And I think what really worked in my favor was nobody was a video professional. So when they saw my work, they probably saw, here's somebody who's way better than us doing video. So aiming for producing the best quality video was actually a good life choice for me, because even though it meant I was doing less projects and I had less work to show under my belt, I think the quality is what really brought that out. That's a characteristic that I bring to me even to this day. Spend more time on fewer things to make things as good as possible. But then they asked me this one question that just killed me. So, Ball State, is that a film school? Asked one of the interviewers. No. Oh. That was it. That was 4 years of my college experience summed up in one word. Oh. That was the extent of what they cared about school. I realized right then and there that I probably wasted a lot of money at university. Most people who worked at Volition were self-taught. Many didn't have university under their belts, and even if they did, it wasn't even related to the job they were doing. Volition was interested in hiring talented folks, and that makes a lot of sense when you're trying to run an art department. In the end, they cared about the quality of your work, not what the paper said. University is a really touchy subject for me too, because about 2 years in, I wanted to drop out and pursue freelance work because, remember, I had a production company. I felt like I wasn't really learning anything new at university, and I had these super high expectations for what school was supposed to be like. I thought university was going to build me into like this master of the craft, but in reality, I was just fighting for the small pool of resources with this massive body of students. I saw that if I could just focus on my business, I'd be shooting high-end commercial jobs, running higher-end equipment, and building my skills further than anything I could have really ever done in school. But my fiance urged me to keep in school, and I said, no, I think I'm gonna leave, and then she said, no, I'm gonna leave if you don't finish school. So in the end, I actually don't regret finishing school because I have a happy wife. But, it would be really nice if I didn't have another 2 years of student loans. Look, I'm not saying that university isn't important. It definitely is if you want to be some sort of licensed professional like a doctor or a lawyer. But if you've got the tenacity to go out there and learn on your own, just go out there and do it yourself. University for me was about two things. One, party with other individuals that, had similar interests. And then two, maybe make something cool with those individuals if they don't like to party all the time. The ones that I met who wanted to create something awesome were already hustling hard enough that they probably didn't need school to get paid to do what they do now. I could make a whole video about the values of university, but hey, look, I only went once, and I'm sure that there are way better resources out there if you want to learn if university is right for you. Back to the interview. Thought I told you not to wear a suit. And I'm thinking to myself, wait, did I forget talking to this person on the phone? Oh no. It's funny how you only focus on the negative things when you're in a tense moment. All I could think about at this point now were just all the negative things in my life. But the reality was I was scoring points left and right. I just didn't know it. There's always going to be positive and negative things in any job candidate. You have to realize that you aren't going to hit 100%, no matter how hard that might feel. You can't agonize over a failed job interview. I've been on the flip side of hiring, and sometimes you bring in a second candidate just to make sure that that person you interviewed is really the person you want. You might be going to an interview where, hey, they wanted another candidate, and you're just there to appease some manager or HR person that they did due diligence that they don't get sued. Kind of sucks though, right? Imagine going to an interview knowing that you're number 2, they already got a number 1, and they're just making sure that their number 1 is their number 1. So remember the leather jacket, marijuana smelling dude at the beginning? I meet him for my last interview of the day, and I'm really exhausted at this point of doing the whole interview song and dance, and I just wanted to kick back with this guy. I'm feeling pretty confident I can kick back with this guy. I mean, come on, who shows up high to work? The guy I'm gonna kick back with, that's who. He's trying to be serious with me, and we watched this trailer for spec work that I did for an AMD film contest.
How am I supposed to get this done in 2 hours?
See, what he doesn't know is that 2 hours is more than enough time if he had the Athlon 64X2.
And so he says to me, what were you trying to convey with this commercial? And I can't believe what I said out loud thinking back to it, but I just let it rip. I said, what I was trying to convey with this commercial is you get an AMD and you get your dick sucked. Guess what? The joke landed. Mission accomplished. I remember feeling like really good in the room because like the mood was very light. We chatted about a lot of stuff that had nothing to do with the job. I just wanted to make sure that I came off as someone that could be fun in the studio. I had learned in my production days that if you hire an a-hole, no matter how good you are not coming back for the second job. So I wanted to show that I was worth keeping around. So when I got home, I told my fiance about the whole interview. And when I got around to the part about the AMD joke, she said, "You are not getting the job. What were you thinking?" That was a really tense couple of days because I focused on just all the negative things. I mean, that's why I can remember all the negative things, but can't really remember much of the positive parts of the interview. I mean, this was an opportunity that I did not want to screw up, but 23-year-old me with that half-developed prefrontal cortex just blurted out something really dumb in the job interview. What was going to happen? Were they going to tell me, "Sorry, but no jokesters"? My brain did all kinds of weird tricks on me. Again, you just have to learn. You can't focus on the negative, especially when it's out of your control. Like, it will eat you alive. But a couple days go by, and then I got the call back from Volition. "Hi, is this Alexander?" "Yes." "We're wondering when you can come in to sign the paperwork." Yes! Yes, I got the job! I was so excited. They were gonna pay me $55,000 a year, which was a lot for me at the time. And this job kicked off my career in technology and games like no other place could. But I don't want people to come away from this and saying, "Oh, just tell a good joke in the interview and you'll get a job, ha ha ha." That's actually not the moral of the story here, although it is kind of a funny joke to tell. What got me the job was twofold. One, I was a video game lifer. I was eating, sleeping, breathing video games before I had my first cognitive memories. Obviously, knowing their first game, Descent, and talking about my love for it was a really big positive. And number two, I was genuinely in a position of saying, no, this is not great. I really want to improve this. And I talked about how I would improve those things in the interview. And when they saw my go-getter attitude, even though I was going to college and building all this work at the same time, I think that was like the big one-up that I had. When I talked to my peers later about asking like, "Hey, why'd you hire me?" They just said like, those other people, they didn't know what they were doing and they didn't know about video games and they didn't have that attitude you had of like wanting to continuously improve. We hired you because you were awesome. I have to admit, I was just in the right place at the right time. Video game developers didn't have professional video production skills, but once everybody moved into the 7th generation of consoles, there was an explosion of media because internet video. I mean, there was a need to generate media. This meant getting people who could play games, could capture games, edit trailers, and do all that in a single person. Despite the great financial crisis, game companies were publishing tons of videos to sites like Game Trailers and IGN, and people were hungry for video game information before YouTube. So if you applied for a job recently and you actually got it, I want you to sound off in the comments and tell me your experience. Right now, in the video game and tech industry, there's like 100 applicants for every job opening. So you did awesome. Do a victory lap. I want to hear about it. So I left Volition in 2017, and a lot has changed in my own career. I founded a VR startup called Human Interact, the channel you're watching, and then eventually landed a job at Dolby Laboratories in the tech industry creating tools for gamers. I've been incredibly lucky and humbled to have worked with some of the largest gaming franchises out there. I get to help them deliver the best HDR visuals possible. I love it. So some takeaway for you folks. Never stop learning, never stop improving. Let others know that is your position. Let them know that is how you operate. Because it goes a long way when you see someone who's hungry during the job interview and that you're excited to be working on something that you want to improve. Also, don't be negative on yourself. it's not your fault. It's not your fault when you don't get the callback. It's not your fault when you don't get the job. And you might be focusing on things that don't even matter to the interviewers. You have to stay positive. And if you can't, surround yourself with people who will raise you up. Avoid the haters. Keep pushing yourself. You've got this. And I want to see you succeed. And you will if you keep your chin up. All right, well, thanks for making it here. If you're interested in learning about what happened after I got the job, I actually have a video where I talk about Volition's closure. But inside that video, I actually talk about what I did when I was there and how I had to step my game up. But until then, I'll see you next week.